Hey guys, this is Will Hilburn, entrepreneur, game designer, and CEO of Studio Pow.Fun. Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to the Mechanic Shop. This is a place where I get to explore all the game mechanisms that make games work, like dice rolling, and worker placement, and variable player powers, and things like that. So each week we're going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes just kind of diving into a mechanism, kind of checking out its history, and then see how it has evolved throughout the years to kind of place us where we are in the gaming space today. So I hope you guys will stick around. Check out this next video. Guys, we're going to dig in here to dice rolling this week, and I've just decided to break this into a few parts because this is a huge portion of the gaming space. So if we go to BGG again, that's boardgamegeek.com, go to their browser function and check out mechanics, we will see dice rolling has 37,269 games that use the dice rolling mechanic or mechanism, however you want to say that. We're going to have an entire episode on whether it's mechanism or mechanic, but that's a future episode, so stay tuned. For now, though, let's just dig in here real quick. If we click on that and then we go to this little pull-down menu here, we can look at year released. And I thought it would be really cool for this first session of dice rolling to just try to figure out, what the oldest game that uses dice rolling. Many of you already know, but don't give away the secret. We're going to click to the very end here. And what do we see? Senate. There it is. So this game is an ancient Egyptian racing game described as a metaphor for the afterlife. So I just did a bit of research kind of digging into this, and of course it led me to Senate. And so just kind of exploring a little bit about Senate here, you get an idea of kind of how the game works and everything. Well, if we dig a bit deeper, actually, from what I found, we don't really know how Senate was actually played by the Egyptians. A couple of guys, like historians and folks like that, have tried to recreate the rules, and those rules have kind of been indoctrinated into the modern versions of these games. So I think it's kind of cool that it's a mystery that we really don't know exactly how the folks who invented this game actually played the game. I think that's really fascinating. But anyway, let's just take a look here. So I've just kind of dug around a little bit and found some sources that kind of just talk about, Senate a little bit and kind of what it looks like and how it plays and all of that. Some beautiful depiction here of an Egyptian playing against an invisible opponent, which is part of the symbolism, I guess, for the afterlife and all of that. But it says, if you're interested in playing Senate, you can use the following modern version of the game rules. Unfortunately, the original rules didn't survive until the present day. So if you're interested, if you've never played this game, I don't think I've actually ever played this game. So as a gaming enthusiast, I'm putting that on my bucket list. It's going to happen. I'll probably make an episode about it, because it's gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, and just the mystery of it all and the story. Because let's just dig a little bit further. Now, as an academic type person, I don't always, really dive straight into Wikipedia. However, if you scroll to the bottom of Wikipedia and you look at the citations and the references, you can find some really interesting stuff here, and a lot of these will actually be like peer-reviewed journals and things like that. So they're very matter of fact and all of that. So I just kind of looking at the history here, it's basically something like dated back. It says fragmentary boards that could be Senate have been found. First Dynasty burials in Egypt, circa 3100 BCE, and so that puts it. Man, that puts it way back in the day. However, if you look at this game, if you just look at it, let's go back to this. If you just look at this game, there's a level of sophistication going on here. I would argue that even though it's not, 100%, strategy, There is that element of luck. I would say that this is a very, very put together game. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I think that essentially what I'm trying to say here is I don't truly believe that this game is the invention of dice rolling by any means necessary. And the reason that I believe that is because back in the day, when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I was studying anthropology and specifically Native American cultures. And that led me, one of the papers that I wrote in that class was on this gentleman named Stuart Cullen. And Cullen, he went around and collected Native American games, kind of dedicated his life to that, and he called them hazard games, basically where a dice was thrown. Maybe it was a two-sided die, maybe it was a four-sided die here. All over the United States, all over Central America, all over the world, really. We find dice, guys, in some form or another, either two-sided, four-sided, six-sided. And so if you think about the fact that, these Native Americans were playing these hazard games, upon contact, that tells you that, these games have been around for many, many years and across the board. And let's just kind of taking a look at a few different examples of dice that have been found in the archaeological record. We have this dice set here, which is really fascinating because it has some grooves and some pips, which I think is really fascinating. I'm curious to know if there's anything more to that mechanically, what the groove meant as opposed to a pip. I think that's just really fascinating stuff that we'll just never know exactly. But this set of dice was found between 3100 and 2400 BC. So, there's pieces that are going way back. This piece here was an Indus Valley excavation from about 2500 to 1750 BC. It says, gaming with dice has always been popular in India. This Indus cubical dice is unusual in that its opposite sides add up to 7, as in modern dice. So we could be looking at the very first kind of modern dice, because that's kind of become standard in the manufacturing process these days, is, having that opposite sides add up to 7. Which honestly I guess was just sort of in the subconscious of the gaming community, because I've just never really thought about that. And obviously I think the importance of keeping like a 6 farthest away from a 1 and all of that to make it truly random, I think is, things that we figured out over time as we were using these dice, especially once we kind of figured out the cubical dice. So anyway, so we know that we have, dice in various forms dating all the way back, to, I would say Neolithic times. And, it's really interesting to look at also, how different cultures can be looked at based on their use of dice and the style and functionality of those dice. For example, there was this one piece that zoomed in and kind of really, here it is. Yeah, so if you take a look at the Springer Link article, which I believe is a peer-reviewed article, or no, it's from Archaeological and Anthropological Sciences. This basically kind of argues that it was that there was some asymmetry to the dice, and they would say that it was actually like serving a function to the society. Like maybe it wasn't necessarily a cheater dice necessarily, but let's just read this real quick. It says, Roman period 6-sided dice are common in archaeological sites across Europe. While some dice approach true cubes, many are visibly non-cube or asymmetrical and favor certain roles, especially the numbers 1 and 6. It is unclear if such dice were intentional and distinctive types used in specific games or activities, represent cheater dice, or are simply part of a continuum of variation in dice shape and configuration, kind of over time, I think is what they're saying. So I just think that's really, really fascinating, that, so much can be said about a specific society. There's literally all of these different sources where these people have like just gone in and basically like they can sort of date different sites and different levels of an excavation based on the asymmetry or lack thereof, or the stylization of the dice that were found at those sites. So, gaming is huge in the archaeological record. I want to just mention this really quickly too. I thought this was really interesting. It's really short. I was hoping there was more to this, but the pictures are beautiful. But listen to this. It says, dice generally get mentioned only in passing in excavation reports. But researchers Jelmer Erkins and Alex Vogt say that changes in dice design can reflect shifting mentalities. According to Erkin, an anthropologist at the University of California, Davis says it takes assembling large numbers of dice to see the broader patterns, which is why the team visited dozens of museums to construct a historical dice database. After comparing dice from ancient Roman, medieval, and Renaissance sites in the Netherlands, Erkins found that they became standardized over time, shifting from lopsided and uneven Roman dice to more cubic designs as of about 1250. By 1450, dice were highly standardized in shape and the number on opposite sides adding up to 7, inspired by the demand for fair dice with equal probabilities. Knowledge of math had effectively snuffed out the belief that fate, dictated by the gods, determined outcomes. With the help of the dice database, archaeologists will also be able to use dice to help date site layers. I just find that to be very profound and just very, very interesting. That is just a tiny piece of what I've found with regards to the history of dice and different people who've been credited with inventing them, most of which have been sort of unraveled by different archaeological finds and things like that. So, guys, we'll continue to explore dice rolling and kind of get a better perspective as we do more episodes on dice rolling to really understand how this sort of pan-human phenomenon has come to be and how it continues to be. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by the shop. We'll see you next week.